Why was Dalvin Cook playing yesterday? Trying to figure that out. Why was anybody got an answer on why Dalvin Cook was playing yesterday?
Here's the hypocrisy about when you throw that out there. You have to make sure people understand there is some damning, I don't know if you call it evidence or photos.
Oh, it's evidence.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be evidence.
That's going to be evidence.
There are some damning photos and exchanges where there's an admission of guilt.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that everyone's seen that. So for those who haven't, this kind of goes back to the conversation we had last week about Dalvin Cook and what his attorney pumped out and Adam Schefter and all that stuff. But that's beside the point. Where this becomes a hypocritical issue for the NFL is we weren't sure about Deshaun Watson and his status if a team traded for him and if he'd be able to play this season, right? Until Ian Rappaport, who works for the NFL Network, which is owned by the NFL, which was sending out signals to teams by essentially saying, hey, if you trade for him, we're not going to put him on the commissioner's exempt list. And the rationale was because what he has done or being accused of isn't physical or violent in nature. That was their wording, meaning how Ian Rappaport communicated that message out to all the teams. This with Dalvin Cook is entirely different.
Yeah.
It's shocking that the NFL wouldn't act quicker on something that literally has ended players' careers in the past, and you've already got stuff that's out there publicly, yet here we are on a Sunday in November, and he's still playing in the game.
Not only playing, but just listening to the way they were announcing when he ran the ball. And it was never – maybe I missed it, but it was never even brought up. There was no acknowledgement of the possibilities of it, the alleged aspects of it. Nothing was brought up. It was just like, he was almost out of there. If that defender doesn't get his body on his feet, that could have been. I mean, this guy's got home run speed. And I'm sitting there, and all I could sit there and think about was, dang, we're going to gloss over it. And I was, listen, when I saw my homeboy sent it to me, and I saw the messages like I can't even go home for the holidays.
Yeah.
I can't go see my family looking like this. You really jacked me up.
And him apologizing for
oh
it.
man, and I'll handle it the way, if I understand if you go to the police and this, that, and the other. Well, clearly that isn't the case. You clearly switched it up, and now it's a matter of it's against you. And it's kind of I don't know, man. That one left me feeling. And I have daughters, so I get real touch sensitive on topics that involve the abuse and assault situations with women. So to me, I don't understand that one. I'm hoping that we get some clarity on why this isn't being handled in a different manner than what it is.
And there's people that are going to say, well, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet. He deserves, innocent until proven guilty. And all of that is true, and all that's fair.
And waiting.
Yeah.
And holding. Yeah. And holding.
All of that is true. And we're not saying that, Dalvin Cook is guilty. But what we're saying is the NFL has shown you time and time again, even if you're not yet guilty, if it looks a certain way, we're gonna be cautious about this, and we're not gonna put you out on the field to go play a game with all this looming. Yet here we are. And I think the issue that people have, to Brady's point, is that hypocrisy, because they've set a standard to where this is how we're going to treat and handle this stuff. Then it's almost like the past couple of years.
Kind of in theory, there hasn't been a standard set. Well, the standard is inconsistency.
Yes.
That's kind of what the standard is.
And now Godell's like, well, I'm just going to take a more of a hands-off approach. Well, it's not what you were doing years ago. That's not what's been done in other situations, whether it's Zeke Elliott or some some of these other times when guys have been in trouble and they've gone ahead and taken them off the field or put them on the exempt list. It's a bad look. And to see all the physical, the pictures that are out there and that stuff, and the fact that he's on the field playing, it was just bizarre. And it was almost like, is nobody like paying attention to this? Like, this is not like getting coverage? I don't get it.
I'll tell you this much, because LaVar kind of brought it up with the broadcast team, and I wasn't sure if they had touched on it at some point. I thought they did.
But maybe they did. Like I said, I could have missed it, but I didn't hear it. When I was watching it, I did not hear it.
Either way, I think the NFL put them in a tough position.
Of course.
Because they should have never been in the spot where they would have to describe the nature of play, which in the NFL, we know it's physical. We know it can be violent. We know it's all those things. But they should have never been put in the position where they would have to talk about a player that has this sort of stuff out there looming. And maybe you could say, well, then why would it be any different for Deshaun Watson? Look, the NFL has already come out and said, like, it's not the same, like an apples to oranges comparison between the two. And when we're not far along enough with everything on Dalvin Cook, but to Jonas's point, this is more about the hypocrisy of the NFL and how it reacts to public outrage and what it was 10 years ago versus what it is right now. And that can of worms that Roger Godell opened up when he wanted to become the jury, judge, and executioner of all these players for their player conduct under the collective bargaining agreement. He's the one that when he came in 2007 or 6, whatever year he came in, he's the one that they basically brought in to have that iron fist and to rule the NFL in that way for the owners, for the NFL. And now it seems like he's taking his hands off the steering wheel, and that's the issue. That's when you run into a ditch. That's when you end up having a huge crash. And so if I was the media right now, like, that would be one of the things that, and I'm kind of surprised that there's not more of an outrage. That would be the thing that I'd be kind of picking on, is why is the NFL taking such a different stance than the precedent that it set years ago in how they handle these issues with players. And like the exempt list was utilized as that place where, look, we need to figure out the details, but we need to protect the shield and the integrity of the NFL. And when we can't put a player out there when all this stuff is looming on the outside. And you can say, well, hey, there haven't been charges brought and all this other stuff, and maybe they reach a settlement, but that's beside the point. Right? Because there's already too much out there where you're putting a lot of people in some bad positions. And I wouldn't be shocked if something doesn't happen here in the near future moving forward.